What do you think the chances of like an exception for absentee ballots for just people who don't want to go to the polls because of coronavirus? Like how realistic do you think it is going to be to pass in the next 2 days?
I think anything's going to be hard to pass in the next 2 days. I think when the House gives you something this late in the game, then you have to look at it and say, okay, is it constitutional? Are we going to have any issues, any court challenges to it? And I think that's what we're trying to decide at this point in time, whether to go forward with the bill or not. But I think it'd been nicer to have this with more time to work with. But you know how this place works is, we get stuff when you get it. So.
Well, that seems to be like a general complaint about the latter half of the session, that a lot of ideas have been piled into quote omnibus bills where people don't have a lot of time to read. Is this kind of is this particular bill that you're handling falling into that category at this point?
I think at this point in time it is, yeah. Because if you look at the components of the House bill that have never really had a Senate hearing or have even been talked about on the Senate floor all session, and now here we are with 30 hours to go, it's very difficult to get that through the Senate. Especially everybody now knows that the clock is ticking. And so a big question that I think needs to be asked of every bill is, has the Senate even heard this? Has the Senate vetted it? And this is questions I ask of other people's bills, so I would certainly expect them to ask that of a bill I would be handling.
Do you think that the whole exception for coronavirus and absentees has been vetted enough at this point?
I'm not in the Senate. I don't believe so. As far as I know, the Senate Elections Committee, I don't know if they've ever had any. I don't think they've had a bill or even talked about it. And so I would say no.
I guess that's the particular issue I've been following because I've been talking with county clerks about it. I'm sure you've heard from county clerks about that because there just seems to be widespread disagreement over whether excuse number 2 covers coronavirus. And I think that the idea is you create excuse number 7, which makes it exceptionally clear. If this doesn't end up getting done, are you concerned that voters may be wary of going to the polls in August and November?
Yeah, I think that there's a certain amount of people that, regardless of what we do now that Corona's been out there, they've been instilled with a fear. And I think this fear is going to stick with a certain amount of people for years. And some of the fear is good. I think you're going to see a lot of citizens that are going to pay a little bit more attention, washing their hands and, doing stuff like that and not coughing, covering their coughs. So these are good long-term things, but the short-term fear is going to be bad in that people are going to be afraid to go out in public. They're going to be afraid to go to places like voting places. So, and I think where the majority of people are going to get over that fear by November or August, there's still going to be a certain amount of people that have that fear. And I think we need to find a way to give them a way to participate in the process. With that being said, I don't know if we can do it in the next 30 hours or so. But it may be something that we need to look at and come back and have as part of a special session, because we know we're going to come back and deal with more budget issues down the road. So maybe we make that part of it, and that will give it the attention it deserves, and we may be able to get it done and get it done right.
And just make it a standalone bill. Like it's only about making an exception for coronavirus and absentee, because it's not going to be done before June anyways, because I think the governor probably wouldn't sign it by the time the deadline passed. This would be for August and November. Would that be your preference at this point, to just maybe drop this issue altogether and then maybe just do it solely in a special session?
I think that would make the most sense at this point in time. However, I'm waiting to hear what the governor's office wants to do, and we're going to kind of follow his lead on this. But if you're asking me what I think makes the most sense at this point in time, would be probably do something like that, yeah.